Hi, so our group today will present to you about the personality. And this is our group member, and the first chapter is personality traits. Each time we use one of these words like talkative, quiet, active, or anxious, to describe those around us, we are talking about a person's personality, the characteristic way that people differ from one another. Gordon Allport and other personologists claim that we can best understand the differences between individuals by understanding their personality traits. A personality traits reflect basic dimensions on which people differ. An important feature of personality traits is that they reflect continuous distribution rather than distinct personality types. This means that when personality psychologists talk about introverts and extroverts, they are not really talking about two distinct types of people who are completely and qualitatively different from one another. But instead, they are talking about people who score relatively low or relatively high along a continuous distribution. So there are three criteria that are characterized personality traits. First, to have a personality trait, individuals must be somewhat consistent across situations in their behavior related to the trait. Second, individuals with a trait are also somewhat stable over time in behavior related to the trait. And third, people differ from one another on behavior related to the trait. Using speech is not a personality trait, and neither is walking on 2 feet. Virtually all individuals do these activities, and there are almost no individual differences. The way that Gordon Allport and his colleague Henry Otbert approached this was to search the dictionary for all descriptors of personality. Their approach was guided by the lexical hypothesis, which states that all important personality characteristics should be reflected in the language that we use to describe other people. Next, the 5-factor model of personality. The 5-factor comprises of 5 major traits. A way to remember these 5 factors with the acronym OCEAN. O is for openness, C is for conscientiousness, E is for extraversion, A is for agreeableness, and N is for neuroticism. Traits are important and interesting because they describe stable patterns of behavior that persist for a long period of time. Importantly, these stable patterns can have broad-ranging consequences for many areas of our life. So this is the big 5 traits. The first one is openness. The people who have low score in this openness will prefer not to be exposed to alternative moral system, narrow interest in artistic, not analytical, and down to earth. While people who have high score in this enjoy seeing people with new types of haircuts and body piercing, curious, imaginative, and untraditional. The second is conscientiousness. The people who have low score prefer spur of the moment action to planning, unreliable, hedonistic, and careless. While people who have high score never late for the date, organized, hardworking, neat, persevering, punctual, and self-disciplined. The third one is extraversion. People who have low score preferring a quiet evening reading to a loud party, sober and unenthusiastic. While people who have high score being the life of the party, active, optimistic, fun-loving, and affectionate. The fourth is agreeableness. People who have low score quickly and confidently assert their own rights, irritable, manipulative, uncooperative, and rude. While people who have high score disagree with others about political opinions, good nature, forgiving, gullible, and helpful. And the last one is neuroticism. People who have low score not getting irritated by small annoyance, calm, unemotional, hardy, secure, and self-satisfied. And people who have high score will constantly worrying about little things, insecure, hypochondriacal, feeling inadequate.
Okay, so in my slide, the first one is the facets of traits. So it means that the first one is mean that be brave to show things, like you are brave to like telling what are you thinking. Like if you think that you think like you got the ideas of something, so like you are brave to show to other. Next is like you are showing your insight, like for being clear, that like no lying, telling the truth from inside of your heart, like that. Next is like following the order, like sticking on the rule that what they give to you and you follow of the permission. And next is like being in like schedule, like follow what good for you. No, what do you call it? Like you make a schedule and you fit everything for yourself and you follow the schedule that you made up. Next, not being like confused, because it's like lead to the problem with the bad thinking, like that. And open your ideas, think like more critical thinking, like that. Next is author traits beyond the 5-factor model. So author from the 5-factor model is the traits that like make people like feeling selfish, like don't listen to the other body, like other people, just like listen to themselves, to himself, like our prime minister in Thailand now. Like they listen only what they want to listen and don't listen the people. And the next is the person situation debate and alternative to the trait perspective. So in this one, it said that like the personality of people will like change and follow by the situation of the time. It's like when you are in like football field, being the crowd that are like cheering, chanting the sound, like to make your team to be cheerful. Like if you're a person in that like dome, before, it's no matter that you are feeling like you are a little bit quiet or you are like people that love to shout, love to sing or not. But when you're in the dome, like your personality of like everybody around you will make you like change and like start chanting. Like I have my friend that like don't know, like talk very less, like in one day he just talk like about 10 to 15 words a day. But that day I invite him to like watch the Barcelona versus Thailand in football at Rashomon Kila, and he just like chanting Messi, Messi, Messi like that. Like the situation is like leading people to change the personality of in during that time.
Hi, Professor. My name is Manita Primata, and today I'm going to tell you about psychodynamics perspective. The beginning from Sigmund Freud, he expanded his theory about the work of mind that is related to human behavior. He believed every behavior has meaning. It did not happen by chance, but that would be a part of the mind to take action and direct the action of the pattern of behavior and content to childhood experience are crucial in shaping adults' personality. Next slide about core assumption of psychodynamics perspectives. They have three assumptions. The first one is premises of the unconscious. About psychodynamic theory content that the majority of psychological process takes place outside conscious awareness. Research confirmed the basic premise of psychoanalysis is many of our mental activities, memory, motive, feelings is like a largely inaccessible to consciousness. Assumption 2, critical importance of early experience psychodynamic theory is unique in the degree to which it emphasizes events as determinants of personality development and dynamics. And the last assumption 3, is about psychicality. Nothing in mental life happen by chance. That uh, there is no such thing as a random thought, feeling, motive, or behavior. This is come to be known as the principle of psychicality. And researchers agree that thought, motive, emotional response, and express behavior do not arise randomly. And the last slide that about the evolutions of psychodynamic theory of Freud. Freud sets out to expand psychological phenomena in terms that could be linked to neurological functionings as it was understood in his age, because his work in this area evolved over more than 50 years. There were numerous divisions along the way. They have three important. The first one is the topographic model. Second one is psychosexual state model, and the last one is structure model. The next student will let you know about more detail about this.
This slide about the topographic model. Freud introduced his topographic model of the mind, which contended that the mind could be divided into three regions: conscious, pre-conscious, and unconscious. 1. The conscious part of the mind holds information that you are focusing on at this moment. 2. The pre-conscious contains material that is capable of becoming conscious but is not conscious at the moment because your attention is not being directed toward it. You can move material from the pre-conscious into consciousness simply by focusing your attention on it. 3. The unconscious. The most controversial part of the topographic model contains anxiety producing material that are deliberately repressed. The psychosexual state model. For psychosexual state, oral, anal, Oedipal, latency, and genital are well known even to not analytic psychological sensation or over gratification during a particular state was hypothesized to result in fixation at the state and through the development of an oral anal or adipal personality style. The structural model for developed a complementary framework to account for normal and abnormal personality development. The structural model, which posits the existence of three interacting mental structures called the ID, ego, and superego. The ID is the seat of the drive and X and instinct, whereas the ego represents the logical reality-oriented part of the mind, and the superego is basically your conscience, the moral guideline, rule, and prohibition that guide your behavior. The ego and its defenses. Ego defenses are basically mental strategies that we use automatically and unconsciously when we feel threatened. They help us navigate upsetting events, but there is a cost as well. Our ego defenses involve some distortion of reality. Psychodynamic theory. Where are we now? The topographic model, psychosexual state model, and structural model continue to influence contemporary psychological, but it is important to keep in mind that psychodynamic theory is never static, even changing and evolving in response to new ideas and findings. And this slide about object relation theory and the goal of the psychodynamic perspective. Object relation theory contains that personality can be understood as reflecting the mental image of significant figure that we form early in life. The response to interaction, taking place with the family. This mental image serves as template for later interpersonal relationship, almost like relationship blueprints or script. Object relation theory has increased many psychologists' interest in studying psychodynamic ideas and concepts. In part because it represents a natural bridge between the psychodynamic perspective and research in other areas of psychology.
Hello, my name is Chapter12. My student number is my last 3-digit student number is 694. About empirical research on psychodynamic theories. Firstly, empirical research assessing psychodynamic theory concept has produced mixed results, with some concept of receiving good empirical support and other not faring as well. So, in contrast, the idea that there are dependent, control-oriented, and competitive personality type is an idea also derived from the psychosexual model, and it does seem useful. So, there are 3 psychodynamic hypotheses that have received strong empirical support. So the first one, unconscious process influence our behavior as the psychodynamic perspective predicts. We perceive and process much more information than we realize. So, and our behavior is shaped by our feelings and motive of which we are at best. The second one, we use ego defendants and they help determine our psychological adjustment and physical health. We rely on different ego defenses, or we have defenses style. So Daniel is quite literally bad for your health because people who use Daniel tend to ignore symptoms of illness until it is late. Because some certain of defenses are more adaptive than others. For example, rationalization and sublimation are healthier than repression and reaction formation. So the last one, mental representation of self and others do indeed serve as blueprints or later relationships. So Dozen have studied that and have shown that mental images of our parents and our other significant figures really shape our expectations for later friendship and romantic relationships. So we move on to psychoanalysis and culture. Freud's lifelong goal was to use psychoanalytic principles to understand culture and improve intergroup relations. So during the past several decades, society has become increasingly multicultural. So this effort has taken on new importance. Psychoanalysts have been active in incorporating ideas and finding regarding cultural influence into their research and clinical work. The opportunities and challenges of neuroscience. Neuroscience is an integration of psychodynamic and neuropsychological concept that has enhanced researchers' understanding of numerous aspects of human behavior and mental functioning. So some of the first effort to integrating psychodynamic principle with finding from neuroscience involves sleep and dreams, and contemporary model of dream formation now incorporate principle from both domains. Looking ahead, psychodynamic theory in the 21st century and beyond. So psychodynamic theory may be the closest thing we have to an overarching or encompassing theory in psychology. So it deals with a broad range of issues, maybe normal and pathological functioning, motivation and emotion, childhood and adult, individual and culture, and the psychodynamic perspective continues to have a tremendous potential for integrating ideas and finding across the many domains of contemporary psychology. Thank you.